Tidal and Dropbox layoffs, and why Apple purchased Pixelmator. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by Notion AI, the one tool that does it all. Try Notion AI for free at notion.com/MacVoices. The next one is a little bit of sort of old news. It happened after our last live show, but it seems to be fairly important, and that is that Apple bought Pixelmator, which is a high-end graphics program that competes with a number of the Adobe products, and Apple just scooped it up. It's been one of those products out there that is more of a one-time purchase as opposed to the subscription purchase that Adobe seems to favor. There's several in that particular category, not a lot, but a few. Curious about the reactions here just to that. I mean, was that, oh my God, this is a great thing, or why did they bother, or how do you see it?
All of the above.
Can you have all of the above, Jim?
I don't really know why they did it, so I don't know if it's great or not.
Okay. Webb?
Just real quick. It was a year and a half or so ago. I was looking for something. I didn't want to buy Photoshop, and I needed something. I talked to our friend Jeff Gamet, and he recommended, and I bought Photomator, and I've been very, very pleased with it for what I do. I'm not going to be a hardcore Photoshop user. I just kind of clean up photos that I've taken. So I was really pleased with the product itself. It met all my needs. Now, what Apple does with it, I'm interested in. Right now, they're going to leave the platform the same, which I'm pleased with. I do kind of wonder, Apple, they kind of got into it, then they got out with what was Aperture. Right. I don't know if that's really a competing product per se as much as it was. Anyway, whatever Aperture was. So I think it's a great product. I think it's a great the Pixelmator and Photomator is a good product. I hope Apple does something with it that's really exciting. Whether it's going to be on a subscription model or not, doesn't matter. Probably everything's going to do a subscription model. But just as the product itself, I'm real pleased with it, and I was happy to see that it's going to have another life. So,
how many people here were Aperture users? Okay, so that's 3, 4. That was a big surprise when they dropped that out, and it's never been, I don't think, adequately explained other than just, they didn't want to pursue that. I'm wondering now if they're just looking at what is out there, and maybe this can be a revenue source, maybe a more affordable revenue source, as opposed to the way that Adobe's trying to do some of their subscription models. I think it's great because the one thing that Apple does, it does seem to, when it goes and buys a piece of software, it buys a pretty high quality piece of software. Then it does its Apple thing to it, but that usually is not a bad thing. So I was kind of happy to see this because it's a competitive market, and the Pixelmator team have done a great job. They deserve to be part of Apple. Mm-hmm. Anybody else have any other things?
I like Dark Sky better than what we have now from Apple.
That's a fair point. I can't argue with that. I was a Dark Sky user. I was never a heavy Dark Sky user. How does the feature set compare, or was it just rolled in with more stuff?
I mean, I don't know, what does feature set mean? It's not a bunch of bullet points. I just liked the way it worked, and I think a lot of other people did as well. And I kept using it until the last day that it stopped working. I think the concern with Apple always is that whatever this is it's not even small potatoes for Apple. It's It's like a hangnail on the hangnail. So, they could wander off and lose interest and poof. So that's the concerning part of it.
Yeah, but that doesn't. Has that happened a lot?
I'm not saying that will happen, but that is the part. Maybe the exact opposite will happen. But that's whenever you look at Apple acquiring something, well, maybe it'll be great, but it could also be the end of it.
Yeah, but that's true of everybody that's acquired something, Jim. I'm not defending Apple. I'm trying to think of things that Apple has acquired and that ended up on the scrap heap. I'm sure there's some. I just can't think of any right off the top, other than maybe Dark Sky.
Because they don't do that many acquisitions of existing products. They tend to do more acqui-hires of things you've never heard of, like PA Semi, which turned out fantastic. But that was not Apple doesn't very often acquire existing products that are already selling to consumers. They don't do that very often. And also, you say, well, that's true of anybody, but I mean, there's no one bigger than Apple. There's nobody that can acquire you that's bigger than Apple. So that's the biggest possible pond. So, there are cases where somebody acquires something and it's like, yeah, okay, that's clearly complements their existing, line. And it's obvious to everybody why it's synergistic. I mean, that's the whole point here is everybody's sort of scratching their head like, why'd Apple do this? Who knows?
Marty?
Yeah, I can echo some of Jim's concerns in terms of what it could be or how it could happen. I'm wondering if since Aperture was dropped, I'm not a big photos guy, but when I have to do photos, it's sort of, I've got to look for something, a tool that I can use, hopefully in the Apple ecosystem, so I can do what I can do. And like web, a while ago, I got Pixelmator and have been using that when I have to do some photo editing. So I'm wondering if Apple's just trying to shore up their consumer market around when they have needs to do photo editing that goes beyond anything that they can do in photos without sending them out to have to buy Affinity or have to buy Photoshop or other types of larger programs. Just build it into the ecosystem.
Did they buy the product for the product, or did they buy the team?
Yeah.
Or did they buy the company for the team?
Who knows?
Yeah. Anything else further before that we end that one?
I'd just say, the assets, the software, and the team is the intellectual property. So, so the answer is they bought both, and hopefully they can keep the team together. So, and do great, wonderful things.
And that company is in the Baltics. So it sounds like they're probably going to stay there, but that's, with Apple is always, like Apple likes to have all the employees there in Cupertino. Not always, but it sounds like this will be an exception. But so yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring this one up just because it seems very timely. But Silo, the second season of Silo, is about to come out on Apple TV, and Apple released a 4-minute Silo season 1 recap, which I wish more, I don't know, streaming services, whatever, would do this kind of thing, because it's getting to be too long between seasons. You forget some of the key points or the subtleties. And I watched the recap, and it's like, okay, now everything kind of comes back, and I feel like I'm ready to step back in to that world. Brian, I see you're excited about Silo.
Yeah, I am, and it's nice to have those recaps. Those are helpful, especially when there's, long times between seasons.
Yeah. Yeah. How many Silo fans here?
Yeah, the
Okay.
solution, Chuck, is that you just don't watch the first season until you know the second season is coming out. I just finished it like 2 weeks ago, the first season, so I'm all ready to go.
Okay, well, that's one strategy. I grant you. I could pick on you about that, but actually, I sort of use that as the strategy for the Dune movies. I sort of waited to watch one until two was out, and then I was able to pick them all, both up together. But now then I found out there's going to be a three, and I guess I should have suspected that given Dune. So, you know, sometimes the strategies don't always work. Next one, again, it seems like I'm picking maybe on somebody, but I love the title of this. Tidal, which is in dire need of some good marketing, lays off its entire product marketing team. Does Mark, please?
This as well as Dropbox, we talked about a year or 15, maybe 18 months ago when, each of them last had some rounds of layoffs. I mean, just reading the excerpts from, I guess the memo announcing it just sounds like it sounds like they're struggling and they're just trying to rationalize things by dumping people and jettisoning costs. Unlike Dropbox, this the Jack Dorsey piece that was quoted really doesn't inspire any confidence. So it looks like it's out there, and they don't give you any reason of why things might get better. It was just and also just doing a quick search, I couldn't find Tidal financials, whereas a year ago they were relatively easy to find. So I don't know if they're just burying a problem in the cat box and just skinning it down to keep it alive to maintain, I guess, goodwill with their user base. But I mean, I think their whole thing was, all about, a high quality, high bit rate, high quality combination of, high frequency and, bigger bit depth, on audio recordings. And I think as Apple's come out with that, and even ultimately, I think Spotify may have finally, done the similar thing. It seems they're just getting squeezed out of the market.
I don't know if Spotify keeps saying it's coming, it's coming. I don't know if it ever has or not.
I keep hearing them say it. I just maybe have assumed that it's finally here, but it may not be.
Yeah. I can't answer that. Anybody know for sure? No. Anybody care for sure?
Yeah.
Does anybody subscribe to Tidal here? Or anybody in the chat room? I'm still sort of trying to figure out what its place is and why.
Bingo.
And then for them to abandon the entire marketing department sounds like, are they slimming it down for a sale to somebody? And if so, why would anybody buy it?
Maybe maybe Jack is talking to Daniel Ike, and maybe that's the way Spotify can get a library of content. And again, all subject to licensing terms that Tidal has, and whether they're transferable, blah 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 blah. But who knows what's going on? I mean, to me, it just seems like it's sucking cash, and they're just you're trying to eliminate the drain.
That's really interesting, Mark. I hadn't even thought about that. If Spotify hasn't released, sorry, I'm having a little camera issue here. If Spotify has not come out with their high quality stream, why? And could the Tidal technology solve the problem for them if it were worth it?
Great question. And anyway, Spotify, had a great earnings report earlier today. So, I think we talked about them earlier in the year having, or maybe at this time last year, that they had a layoff, and actually it's had some good impact. They're finally a profitable company instead of perpetually losing money. So I wish them the best.
Marty, you say Spotify has a 320K kilobit bit rate, but that's not lossless, is it?
I don't know. I don't know that much about audio stuff, but this is it says Spotify has Spotify premium accounts offer a high quality streaming option in the preferences panel that'll give you 320 kilobytes per second streaming, the highest quality compressed streaming audio available.
The highest quality compressed
I know.
Streaming audio. So if it's compressed, if it's compressed, that doesn't seem like that would be lossless, but I'm not sure.
No.
This edition of Mac Voices is supported by Notion AI, the one tool that does it all. Try Notion for free at notion.com/MacVoices. There are lots of apps out there that claim they will help you get totally organized, do things for you, and solve all your problems. I can think of several that fail and a couple that fail miserably, and one that actually delivers, Notion. The new Notion AI is a single AI tool that does it all. Search across Notion and other apps, generate docs in your own style, analyze PDFs and images, and chat with you about anything. One aspect of Notion that I really like is that it lets you work the way you want to work and integrates with so many other of my favorite tools. And with its AI connectors, now in beta, Notion AI can search across Slack discussions, Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides, with more coming soon. And I don't have to worry about the privacy of my projects or information. Notion AI is designed to protect your privacy. Notion's AI partners are contractually prohibited from using my data to train their AI models. And Notion AI respects the permissions of your content so that it will only reference content that you have access to. Try Notion for free when you go to notion.com/MacVoices. That's all lowercase, notion.com/MacVoices, to try the powerful, easy-to-use Notion AI today. And when you use my link, you're supporting my show. Notion.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Notion for supporting Mac Voices. Well, Mark, since you brought up Dropbox, they too just laid off 20% of their workforce. So your timing is impeccable. I feel bad for Dropbox because they borderline ruled the earth for a while, and then Microsoft brought out OneDrive. Of course, Apple brought out iCloud, and now I still feel like Dropbox is integrated so well in so many things, and they keep trying to do something else, and they never seem to be able to get their feet under them to do it. Because I've played with some of their productivity products, and it's just like, no, there's nothing compelling here, nothing different. There's no differentiation.
I agree. I think that's their challenge, and there's a rumor way back when that Jobs wanted to buy them, and Drew Houston said no, and co-founder, and Drew's his co-founder and CEO, and Jobs told you guys are nuts. This is a feature, not a standalone product. Well, it certainly seems that way. That outside of file sync and share, they've had all sorts of numerous things. Their current thing is in search. They used to have things in terms of cataloging your library and doing things with photos, and none of those, as you were saying, Chuck, really, really caught on. And I think if you look at them, they had a big drop, in February. I think it was February 16th of this year, where they surprised Wall Street. They had, I guess there were two surprises in that earning report, as I recall. One was, their future outlook, for revenue, for the year was under, what they had previously guided. And also they had a loss of paying subscribers. So that's the stock has recovered a little bit since then, but just reading on the blog, it it's a lot to me. It's sort of like it's CEO, what I call CEO pillow talk. He's saying great things about the future without anything really specific. So it's not as bad as some of the GM stuff if we get to that story, which my sharp tongue will comment on. But this one, I think to me it really raises a question that, as I've said before, one of their problem is that they grew very rapidly, by having so many free users, and they're offering business plans, and they're not able to convert people over. I mean, they did a transition away from, I think, originally AWS infrastructure to building their own servers and storage, and that had a dramatic increase on their profitability. But it seems like if you look over the past 3 or 4 quarters, their growth has really dipped down, and Wall Street hates Wall Street hates companies that don't grow. So that's a problem. It's especially a problem because when they went public, if you look at it, Drew, the founder, he's incredibly incented to raise stock prices over what was, I think they went public in 2018 or 2019, if I recall correctly. And it's sort of like a 10-year plan, of things you need to do to boost stock price, to unlock huge equity grants for him. And I wish them the best, but I think that trying to be trying to be the number 4 player, with desktop document or photo services is just not a recipe for success. And I wish them good luck, but we'll have to see what happens.
Marty?
Yeah, I was a pretty devoted Dropbox user years ago, and I just wanted a closet. I wanted something that I could open occasionally, throw stuff in, slam the closet door, and walk away until I had to open the closet again. And it seemed like not only do prices fluctuate with them, the cost, and then all the management tools they put into it complicated my closet, and I didn't want that. So I realized I was throwing less in there, so it was time to take everything out and drop the monthly service that I was paying for. So I pulled it all out, stored it in other ways, and that was the end of my relationship with Dropbox.
And I know exactly what you mean, Marty, because that's what I wanted too. And the pricing became a little too much, which seemed to be strange given that the price of storage was dropping, that they didn't try to be more competitive, remain more competitive. And yet they added all the management tools and all this great stuff, and it just never caught. Now, that saying, I still utilize Dropbox, and I still find it extremely valuable. If I ever wanted to take the time, I could probably work my way around it, and use iCloud. But it still works the way it did, the way I wanted it to. And the only trouble is now, unless I pay more money, I can't sync between as many devices.
Yeah.
And maybe that should have been the play. Maybe they should have been, working on the syncing part between multiple devices and make it easier for you to have Dropbox everywhere, as opposed to trying to pay for it everywhere, having to pay for it everywhere.
Well, I think that was a reaction to their needs to grow revenue and profits, and having too many free users. But again, I don't think that this is a unique problem to Dropbox, because if you look at Backblaze, which it is it's similar. It's a cloud storage, predominantly backup, but they've tried to grow away from backup by having sort of collaboration services, as well as Box. Box is really just sort of stagnated, and I think the thing Box did right is they really encouraged a lot of developers, and they hit the corporate market, in a significant way. But these consumer storage companies, they're having some trouble.
Mark, there's something you said earlier really struck me. Wall Street hates companies that don't grow. And how many companies, and maybe we're seeing it right now with Dropbox. What happened to companies that could just provide a good service day in, day out, make the money they made and be happy with it? And that we see companies that try all these strategies, and they end up shooting themselves in the foot and going out of business because they couldn't sustain the new ventures and the new aspects of it. And so it's a shame because there's some great services that have had to tell that story, and I'm wondering if Dropbox is going to be one of them.
So about that, companies that get venture capital, they have to have a return to the VCs who themselves have to offer return to their investors, their limited partners in their funds. And there's two ways to do it: is going public or getting acquired. And if you go public and you're growing, it's great because the VCs can distribute, and then the owners, universities or family offices or whoever, they get the stock and they can do whatever they want with it. Once a company is public, though, there's all of these so-called, I guess the polite term is activist shareholders, activist investors, where I can imagine that they'll come in and they could start to crucify them that you're doing this, that, and the other thing, and you have all these free people. So we've taken a 5 or 6 or 10 or 12 or some number of percent ownership share, and now you've got to dump all these freeloaders because it's just sucking you down, and you have to do all these other things to improve your profitability to drive up your stock price. So this is sort of a follow-on of when I say Wall Street doesn't like companies that growth companies that stop growing. There's all sorts of other tiers of investors who will try to come in and acquire and make some money. I think ultimately, if Dropbox needs to decide if they can't grow, then they should go. Then they should just find a way to finance taking themselves private, so that way they're not exposed to sort of the ruthlessness of being a public company.
Any other thoughts on this? I'm curious, how many Dropbox users do we have here?
Kinda, I don't use it as much as I used to, but I still do.
Free account. Yep.
Yeah.
I got yep, that's it.
Yeah. Joe in the chat room said that iCloud storage is still very pricey. And you're right. And I think Marty and I have been jumping in on the same concept. But iCloud is part of the Apple ecosystem. And so therefore, it has a better functionality in some cases, not at least not for my use cases in every situation, but it's still pretty darn good.
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
So a lot of people, they look at, okay, I can buy this or that or number terabyte drive at Amazon for 12, 10, 8, 5 cents a gigabyte. And then they think, oh, Apple's ripping me off because they're so expensive. But the reality is, it's not just to make the service work. It's not just the physical media. You have to have the building, the power, the cooling, the networking, and all these other things do drive up costs. And yes, maybe Apple could be a little bit more aggressive in terms of the amount of storage that they offer. But it's wrong if you think that they're that you're really being taken advantage of. Because go and look at so Dropbox and Backblaze, I think initially were sort of outliers and offering storage at or below their actual cost, because they stem from the era where build a huge user base and then find a way to monetize it. That was the sort of mantra in the investment community, VC community in that era. Things have changed. Now they actually have to pay people. They have to pay for electricity. They have to pay for cooling. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, yes, maybe there are better deals out there, than iCloud, but it's not the order of magnitude, or a couple order of magnitude difference that you might think it is just by looking at prices of hard disk drives from Amazon or OWC or other places.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.